I laugh on command now. Not because things are funny, because a laugh is scheduled. It's on the call sheet. 9:45 a.m. Laugh warmly at the president's joke about traffic. I don't even know which ambassador yet, but I'll laugh warmly. I always do. This is my life now. I am the second most powerful person in a room that changes every 40 minutes. I used to think power meant doing whatever you wanted. Now I know it means doing exactly what's on a laminated card, at exactly the right decibel, with exactly the right amount of enthusiasm. Too much enthusiasm and it's a headline. Too little and it's a different headline. There is a narrow, invisible lane of correct enthusiasm, and I live in it full time. My mornings start before the sun does. Someone hands me a folder. The folder has a color. Blue means routine. Red means someone is angry somewhere, and I need to know why before I know their name. I've learned to read red folders the way other people read weather. Fast, instinctively, bracing for wind. I have a team whose entire job is to know what I said 5 years ago, in case I contradict it today. They call it consistency. I call it a leash made of my own words. Every sentence I've ever spoken in public is filed somewhere, cross-referenced, ready to be pulled the second. I forget I already had an opinion about semiconductor supply chains in 2019. People assume the job is meetings. It is. But it's also hallways. So many hallways. I have had entire relationships in hallways. Alliances formed in the 40 feet between a briefing room and an elevator. I've learned more from a 90-second walk with the right person than from a 90-minute meeting with the wrong ones. There's a woman who does my makeup who knows more state secrets than half the cabinet. Not because she asks. Because I forget she's there. People forget the people making them presentable are still people, still listening, still capable of putting it together when I mutter something I shouldn't while getting powder brushed under my eyes. I used to write my own jokes. Now a team writes them, tests them on a smaller team, and hands me the surviving ones. Comedy by committee. Somehow it still sometimes works. Somehow it sometimes doesn't, and I feel that specific silence in a room. The silence where 40 people simultaneously decide not to laugh. I've made peace with that silence. I have to. It happens at least once a week. My schedule is printed in 15-minute blocks, and yet somehow every day feels like it's either racing past me or standing completely still. There is no in-between speed. I've stopped trying to control the pace and started just holding on. I get asked about my legacy more than I get asked about my day. Nobody asks how I'm doing anymore. They ask how history will remember me, which is a strange question to answer while eating a granola bar in a moving car. There's a specific kind of tired that comes from being watched constantly. Not filmed. Watched. Read. Every gesture has a theory behind it now. I shifted my weight during a press conference once, and 3 separate people wrote that it meant I was hiding something. I was just standing on a bad ankle. Nobody wrote about the ankle. I have learned to smile with my eyes closed for exactly 1 photo per event, because someone told me it reads as warm and human, and apparently that needed manufacturing. I didn't used to think warmth needed a formula. Now I know it does, and I know the formula, and some days I hate that I know it. The strangest part isn't the power. It's the loneliness inside the power. I am surrounded by more people, at more hours, than almost anyone alive, and I have never felt more like I'm eating dinner by myself. Because most of the people around me are working, and working people don't tell you the truth. They tell you the version of the truth that keeps their job safe. I miss being disagreed with, honestly. I miss someone rolling their eyes at me without immediately apologizing for it. There's a version of me from before all this. She had opinions she said out loud without checking them against polling first. She argued in restaurants. She lost arguments and didn't spiral about optics. I think about her sometimes, usually late, usually in whatever hotel room the schedule has assigned me that week, staring at a ceiling that looks like every other ceiling in every other city. People think the hardest part of this job is the decisions. It's not. The decisions are actually the easy part, weirdly. You get the information, you weigh it, you choose. The hard part is everything around the decision. The performance of having decided. The narrating of the decision to 12 different audiences who each need a slightly different version of the same truth, none of which are lies, exactly. Just angles. I've become fluent in angles. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being asked what I think and started being asked what I'll say. Those used to be the same question. They stopped being the same question a long time ago. And I didn't notice the exact day it happened, which honestly worries me more than the change itself. There's a young staffer on my team, sharp, funny, still says what she actually thinks in meetings. I watch her sometimes and feel something close to grief. Not because she'll change, because I know exactly how she'll change and exactly how long it'll take. And I can't tell her because there's no way to say it that doesn't sound like a warning she'd resent and ignore anyway. I did. People love asking if it's worth it. I've stopped answering honestly because the honest answer changes by the hour and nobody wants an hourly answer. Ask me at 6 a.m., surrounded by folders, and I'll tell you it's the honor of a lifetime. Ask me at 11 p.m., alone, still in the blazer because taking it off feels like admitting the day isn't really over, and I'll tell you something much quieter. The truth is somewhere between those two answers, and I live in that gap now. Permanently. It's not misery. I want to be clear about that. It's just not what anyone imagines from the outside, all those cameras and motorcades and rooms with flags in them. From the outside, it looks like a rival. From the inside, it feels like a very long, very well-lit hallway that never quite ends in a door. I still believe in the reasons I said yes. That part hasn't changed. And some days, that's the only part I'm sure of. I believe the work matters. Even the parts that get reduced to a 90-second, warmly enthusiastic answer to a question that took a room of people 6 hours to prepare. But I laugh less spontaneously now. That's the real cost. The one nobody puts a number on. Not my time, not my privacy, not even my old opinions filed away for future contradiction. My spontaneous laugh. The one that used to happen before I checked if it was appropriate. I laugh on command now. It's on the call sheet. But every once in a while, maybe once a week, someone says something actually funny, off script, off record, off everything, and for one unscheduled second, I forget to check the lane, and I just laugh. That's the part I'd never trade back. Let me back up. Let me tell you what a normal Tuesday actually looks like because nobody believes me when I describe it. 5:15 a.m., the alarm goes off before the birds have committed to anything. 5:30, a briefing document lands in my inbox that's longer than most novels, and I'm expected to have opinions about all of it by 6. 6:15, someone does something to my hair that I don't fully understand but deeply appreciate. 6:40, I'm in a car, eating something that was described to me as breakfast, but functions more like a dare. By 7, I've already had 2 conversations that could reasonably be called history, and 1 conversation about whether my jacket photographs better buttoned or unbuttoned. I wish I were exaggerating. The jacket conversation took longer than one of the history conversations. There's a rhythm to it, though, and once you find the rhythm, it stops being chaos and starts being choreography. I used to resist the choreography. I thought resisting it made me more authentic. Eventually, I realized the choreography is just the shape the day takes so that the actual work can happen inside it. You don't fight the shape. You learn to move well within it. Midday is when the real arguments happen, the ones that never make it to a podium. Rooms full of smart, tired people disagreeing about the least bad option, because the best option left the building a long time ago. Nobody in these rooms says the best option. Everyone says the least bad one. I've come to respect that phrase more than almost any other in my vocabulary. It's honest in a way that public statements almost never get to be. I eat lunch at my desk more often than not, and when I do sit down properly, it's with people who need something from me, which I understand, which is fine, which is the job, but which also means I can count on one hand the meals I've had this year where nobody wanted anything except my company. That number used to bother me more than it does now. I've made a kind of peace with it. Not full peace, a working peace. Afternoons are calls. So many calls, with people in time zones I have to picture on a map before I can picture their face. I've learned to sound alert on 4 hours of sleep, which is a skill nobody teaches you and everybody expects you to already have. There's a moment, most days, right around 4 p.m., where I catch my own reflection in a window between meetings and don't immediately recognize the posture. Shoulders back, chin level, expression pre-approved. It's not a bad posture. It's just not the one I grew up with. I grew up slouching over library books, arguing with my siblings about nothing, laughing too loud in restaurants. That posture is still in here somewhere. I check on her sometimes, in the reflection, just to make sure she hasn't left entirely. Evenings are supposed to be for family, and sometimes they actually are. In the small windows the schedule allows, and those windows have become the most valuable real estate in my entire life. 20 unscheduled minutes with someone who knew me before any of this is worth more to me now than an hour with someone who only knows the version with the pre-approved expression. I've started keeping a list, just for myself, of the specific things that still surprise me even after all this time. The way a room actually goes quiet, physically quiet. When certain people walk in, mine included now apparently, which still catches me off guard. The way a joke lands completely differently, depending on who's in the audience, even if the joke itself never changes. The way exhaustion has a taste, somewhere around 11 p.m., something metallic and familiar. People ask what surprised me most about the job, expecting a policy answer. The real answer is smaller than that. It's how much of the job is translation. Translating urgency into calm. Translating uncertainty into confidence, at least on the outside, even when the inside hasn't caught up yet. Translating what I actually think into what can survive being repeated by 100 people who weren't in the room when I thought it. I've gotten good at the translation, good enough that sometimes I have to double-check later, alone, what I actually believe versus what I've simply gotten fluent at saying. That gap scares me more than any red folder ever has. But here's the thing. Nobody prepares you for. The thing I wish someone had told me on day one. The performance and the person don't have to be enemies. I spent the first stretch of this job treating them like they were at war, like every scripted moment was a small betrayal of the real me. It's not that simple. Some days the script says what I actually mean, just organized better than I could have organized it myself at 6 in the morning on no sleep. Some days the choreography and the conviction line up perfectly, and those are the good days. Those are the days that make the folders and the hallways and the jacket conversations worth it. I still get nervous before big moments. I don't think that ever goes away, and honestly, I hope it doesn't. The day walking into that room stops making my hands a little cold is probably the day I should hand someone else the folder. I laugh on command now. It's on the call sheet. But every once in a while, maybe once a week, someone says something actually funny, off script, off record, off everything. And for one unscheduled second, I forget to check the lane. And I just laugh. That's the part I'd never trade back.